we're going to start soon because I know all of you are eager to hear what we have to say, but even more so to return to our beautiful exhibitions in our galleries. If anyone would like a seat, we have tons of seats. Some say reserved, and that might be for you. I don't know who they're reserved for, but you can just come on up front if you would like. There's plenty of seats up here. Good morning, everyone. I'm Scott Rothkopf. You can see my name right there. The Whitney's Alice Pratt Brown director, and please, thank you. I'm delighted to welcome you to this morning's press preview. We have several great exhibitions opening or just opened that you will hear about. But I also want to mention a few institutional milestones. One is that we are just about 10 years old in this building. We opened 5/1/15, May 1st, 2015. I can't believe it. And we are really so thrilled with so much of what's happened over the past 10 years. And we'll be celebrating in a lot of exciting ways for 10 weeks, beginning in just a minute. There'll be special member events. There'll be a West Side Fest that we do with our cultural partners downtown when the museum is free. We'll have parties. Stay tuned for all of those events that will really, I think, look back to some degree on what we've achieved so far, but really want to look forward to what is next at the Whitney. And one of the things, of course, that we are the proudest of having achieved just in the last year and a half, frankly, is our new free admissions programs. Two of them are a little over a year old, and one is almost brand new. We are now, I think, as you know, free every Friday night from 5 to 10 p.m. We're free the second Sunday of every month, all day long. And we are now, since December, free for everyone always 25 and under. We used to be free for everyone 18 and under, and we were able, thanks to really generous gifts from our trustees, Julie Meritu and Susan Hess, to raise that. And what we've seen in just the past few months or over the past year is a real transformation of our audience. We have so many new first-time visitors. Our audience has become younger. It's become more diverse. And we really want to expand access as much as possible, now more than ever, to great art, to great and challenging ideas, and to exhibitions like you'll see today. So we have, I'm going to look at my notes because there are so many shows, I don't want to get any of them wrong. We have opening Amy Sherald, American Sublime. We have our Hyundai Terrace Commission, Marina Zurkow. We have our collection view of Louise Nevelson, all works from our collection. And we have Mary Heilmann Long Line, which is a bit of a 10th anniversary celebration in itself because it's a sort of reprise and reimagining of an installation that Mary did with us on our terrace when we opened downtown. We also have on view Christine Sun Kim and Jeannie Mutasami Ash. And it's incredible. We did not plan it like this, but these are all women artists. They're all incredible artists who are women. And we're so thrilled to have these generations represented, from Louise, who is no longer with us, Nevelson, but one of the most cherished artists in our collection, to young artists today. Before we get into the remarks, I have to, and would be pleased to say some thank yous, especially to some of our longtime corporate and foundation sponsors, Bank of America, Delta, the Ford Foundation, and our partner, New York Magazine. We are so just thankful for the support that we get. It's not easy to run a museum like this one, and those people who stick with us year after year, as those organizations have done, just really mean a lot to us. I want to underscore especially that for Hyundai. We have some of our friends from Hyundai here from Seoul. I was just there. This is our second Terrace Commission of a 10-year partnership. And it's really allowed us to think so differently and to give artists really amazing opportunities. Last year, we had Turquoise Dyson. Now we have Marina. And we just look forward to what lies ahead. Hyundai's been so amazing in allowing us to think big and think differently. And we're really grateful for that. Our Louise Nevelson show was also supported by an endowment provided by the Jack and Natasha Gelman Foundation. So before I hand the podium over to my colleagues and friends, I just wanted to say a word about Amy Sherald's show, American Sublime. Amy is an artist who I think you all know and everyone kind of knows because of this incredible excitement around her portrait of Michelle Obama. And of course, also her very gripping portrait of Breonna Taylor that was on the cover of Vanity Fair magazine. But as you will see upstairs, there's a huge body of work outside of those paintings. And for us, I think it feels like a homecoming of sorts for the Whitney. we are able to debut an incredible painting that we acquired in 2019. So it's on view for the first time here, the large blue painting with the man on the green girders. But Amy, in a way, has a kind of deep Whitney history inside of her. She remembers seeing shows here as an art student, and she's talked about that on the record in different places. But I think back to the founding of this museum, to Gertrude Vanderbilt Whitney, our founder, who was an artist. And in 1930, when she founded this museum, she espoused a tradition, really, of figurative painting. And in some cases, a figurative painting of subjects that had yet to be seen in the fine arts. I'm thinking of Robert Henry's pictures of sort of children. I'm thinking of John Sloane's backyards that looked kind of a little bit maybe not pretty, not the refined subject matter that people thought. And since that time, this museum has been committed to so many artists that Amy is passionate about. Edward Hopper, Barclay Hendricks, she named quite a few recently. And that tradition, Alex Katz, I'm thinking of artists painting themselves, their community, and others is something we take so seriously. So we really see Amy's work in that context, in that continuum. And she has spoken quite beautifully about how important it was to her to paint people who looked like her and to express their individuality and to find in each of those portraits a unique person that we could relate to and, have all sorts of meaningful thoughts about. And I think you'll see that as you go through the exhibition. Although many of the paintings are the same scale, the same format, each is just full of so many stories waiting to be discovered. So with that, I will hand the floor over to Rue Hockley, our Arnold Associate Curator, for her to present on Amy's show, and we'll have a few more remarks after that. Thank you.
Okay, yes, well, that is my name, Rujeko Hockley. Thank you so much, Scott, and thank you all for coming today. This is, wow, full crowd. Love the enthusiasm. So as Scott said, I am the curator here at the Whitney of Amy Sherald's show, American Sublime, which is opening next week officially, but today for you, and we'll run through August. As you've seen already, it's a large show on the 5th floor, about 50 works. It came from SF MoMA, and here, one of the things that we wanted to do, as Scott alluded to and mentioned, is really lean into our institutional history and our connection to American realism and kind of American figuration, something that Amy is uniquely extending in the 21st century. So as you come out of the elevators, there's a beautiful display of 5 paintings, which you will see, which you've seen already. And then the first room, as we move into the exhibition, includes this painting, Hangman. This painting is the earliest painting in the show, and it is a painting where you can kind of see this transition from her earlier work, where she has these modeled backgrounds, to the work that we more commonly associate her with. I wanted to arrange this show chronologically so that we could see a progression, so that we could see the way in which there is a large body of work. Though she has been kind of known for these 2 moments that Scott mentioned, Mrs. Obama and Breonna Taylor's portraits, she has been a working artist for 25 years. She is person who really lived the life of an artist in the sense of she pursued her dreams at the expense of all other things. She worked as a waitress for 10 years, had a small studio in Baltimore, as Scott mentioned, would come to New York frequently, to the Whitney specifically, and all the while was kind of trying to think about what would be her mark, what was going to be the thing that she was going to do in this world as an artist. And so I wanted to kind of tell this story as a way to show her progression as an artist, but also to show her kind of complexity and deepening ambition, deepening kind of commitment to herself as well as to her subject. So Hangman, which I showed you, is included here and will go on to the National Portrait Gallery, but it has not been seen since 2007 in any real way. Amy was not sure about it, but I think it opens the show very beautifully because it does bridge these ideas of individuality, of kind of thinking about Black people, Black subjects in the context of American realism, and thinking about a history. It is called Hangman. It's kind of the closest allusion to the kind of history of racial violence in the United States that Amy is interested in and invested in, but also thinking about how that is only one facet of any person's identity, of any Black person's identity, anybody's identity. So as we move through the show, we see these kind of earlier works moving into kind of the mid-teens. What do we call it? I don't know, the 20-teens. We can kind of see now her moving into this more, the backgrounds and the aesthetic that I think she's most commonly associated with. But I wanted to give us this movement through time and through space, different kind of pacing, different kind of scales of work. The work from this period are all the same size because that was the size of her studio in Baltimore at the time. And so I think there are many, many things to love about this show and many, many things to love about Amy as a person, as an artist. But I think one of the things that is most compelling to me is how much she has committed and continued to work towards what she knew, was going to be her moment. She has told us that she manifested the show in 2007. So, it's good, I think, for artists, young artists, everyone to think about, you have to commit to yourself. So, of course, in 2018, after winning the Outland Butcher Prize in Washington, D.C. in 2016, the prize was a portrait of a notable American. Oh, excuse me. And she ended up, through various, interviews, being selected to paint Mrs. Obama. And so this painting in the galleries is in its own room. It has its kind of own moment. It has kind of for the appropriate gravitas of it. But it was very important to me that it be in the flow of the exhibition, that it be a part of the show. Though it may be the point at which she became a household name, it is one point in her story, one point in her progression, and one point in our exhibition as well. This is the painting in the Whitney's collection, which Scott mentioned. If you surrender to the air, you could ride it. And yes, this is the first time it's been on view at the Whitney. The first time it's been on view since the Whitney purchased it was in San Francisco in the first leg of this exhibition. So it's really amazing for it to be here. And this is a very important painting for Amy. And of course, for us, I think we really love this painting, and it's been really lovely to be able to share it here. Moving on, this painting, As American as Apple Pie, was not included in San Francisco, so it's here. Actually, also has not been seen in the United States outside of Amy's studio, I believe. And so we're very happy to be able to include it here in this exhibition. Again, we move through time, we gain in complexity, we gain in kind of the storytelling and the narrative properties of the work. Breonna Taylor, as Scott mentioned, here at the Whitney, I think one of the important things, and in general, was to think about her as a person who became famous for a very terrible reason, a person who we know, whose name we should not know, but we know because of the way in which she died and the circumstances of her death. And so at the Whitney, it was very important to me to put her kind of among friends. So she is, in a venerated position, and we kind of can see the importance of her and of this painting, but also think about her as a person a young woman who was with her friends, who had a life that she was living. So that was kind of how we thought about that. And then finally, there are a few paintings in the exhibition that are new, that were made for the exhibition, for the tour in general. So Ecclesia, The Meaning of Inheritance and Horizons. And I think this is really, in many ways, the culmination of many interests of Amy's over time, the kind of complexity of this kind of vast triptych, the scale of the work, as well as the kind of mysterious nature, the kind of unknowability in some ways of both the subjects as well as the kind of narrative. I think this is really a hallmark of Amy's work, is that it's portraiture, it's figuration, but it's I've been calling it portraiture plus, because it's not necessarily rooted in the real, but it also, of course, is. And so we're in this kind of imaginative space, which is very important to Amy's work, this idea of imagination, the power of imagination for her as an artist, but also for her viewers, for her subjects, the kind of transformative power of imagination. Transforming Liberty is also a new painting that is in the exhibition, kind of larger-than-life monumental painting that Amy really intentionally and specifically set out to paint, thinking about the kind of increasing restrictions against trans and gender nonconforming people and Americans in general. So constantly thinking about how to kind of expand the circle, this question of who is an American, who gets to be depicted, how are they depicted, very important questions at the heart of the Whitney, but also at the heart of her practice. And then in closing, I will just share, I don't know if you saw the billboard as you came in. This is also part of the show. It's its own thing, but it's also part of the show. So I just wanted to point it out that it is there and very beautiful. And this is the first time Amy has realized kind of a project of this scale and kind of worked in this way. So it was an interesting process, and I think she really, enjoyed it in the end, and we're very happy with it. But I think that I'm good. Thank you so much. Go see the show. And Christian is next.
Thanks so much, Ru, and thanks to all of you for coming today. So along with the amazing Amy Sherald show, we're also opening Marina Zurkow Parting Wells with 2 works in the Kaufman Gallery and a big commission by Hyundai on the terraces. So Marina's practice crosses a range of media. Actually, she works with animation and software, but also card games or even dinner parties. Her work has been widely exhibited from MoMA to SF MoMA to the Walker Art Center and around the world. So I will start with the Hyundai Terrace Commission, which consists of 2 parts. The river is a circle is, on the one hand, custom software-driven animation that is shown on a large-scale screen done by Marina with James Schmitz. And both Marina and Jim are up here in the front row if you want to talk to them later. And then also an installation, mixed material, very site-specific, on the terraces. So this is what you will see when you are out there. We built a 24 by 13 foot screen onto the terrace, and it shows you a split view of the Hudson River with a landscape above the water and below the water. I want to point out that all of the works in this show are hand-drawn animation that are driven by software. And what you will see floating by on the river are barges that take you through historical stages, 6 of them, actually. Starting with the Lenape colonial times, the 19th century, the 70s with the dilapidated piers and the nightlife, lots of clubs, Hogs and Heifers and Florent and others. Then we're going through a period of gentrification and then into a future. The future is pretty dark, but it has one brighter side and one darker side, as you will see. So all of this you will see floating by. And I once again want to point out, this is not a loop, this is not a video, but you will never see the same piece again. It's constantly configured by the software. Below the water, you're seeing a landscape of lots of fish in collaboration with the Hudson River Trust. All of this is accurate. These are fish that you would encounter in the Hudson. I also want to mention that this software is connected to the weather conditions in New York. When it rains, it will rain. Here you will see the piece change through the seasons, summer, fall, and winter come back often. It will always be different. And then in the installation on the terrace that Marina did in collaboration with architect Blake Goebel, we're extending that underwater landscape. You also see a sunken boat in the underwater animation, and that is our seating area here. You see pilings of a dilapidated pier that are also alluding to little island, and reef balls in the back. Those are structures that are put underwater for oysters to populate. So this is one continuous landscape, giving you one more example here of what it might look like. So here on the left, you see the Standard Hotel and you see Little Island. So this is more of the gentrification period. And the Gucci building, which actually formerly was the first trans boutique. So you still have that sign up on top. And Marina did deep research into all of this, conducted interviews. If you go to the terrace, there's a QR code on the plaque from which you can download a glossary that gives you a detailed explanation of the 400 pieces, assets that you encounter. So deep research and deep history. And finally moving to the Kaufman Gallery, where we are showing two pieces, the Earth Eaters on the left and Mesocosm Wing Texas on the right. Once again, all of the works are dealing with ecological and social themes, and the works in this gallery particularly address extraction from the Earth. So not the best photo, see it in person. So the Earth Eaters is a 7-channel installation, and it looks very much like a woodcut. And what you will see are islands constantly emerging from the sea, then dissipating again on these islands. You see an army of miners hacking away at the land while animals are watching them. And emerging from the earth occasionally are war machines that are made out of the metal for which it is mined. So this is kind of a cycle of extraction, and it is based on woodcuts from the mid-16th century, respectively, by Agricola, the father of geology, and Gessner, the father of zoology. So Marina can give you more detail on all of that. And finally, a work that we brought into the collection a few years ago, Mesocosm Wing Texas. And this shows you a sinkhole in Texas that Marina discovered. And this work also cycles through seasons. You see oil, refineries in the background. The works basically plays through sequences and the seasons a little bit faster. Then the river is a circle, which is tied to real time. So in this one, 1 minute is actually a day. So 144 hours are a year. So you see a lot more change in this one. And I'll end it here. Feel free to ask us for more detail and hand it over to Kim Connolly.
Thanks, Christiane, and thanks everyone so much for being here. I promise to be quick as I'm the last one holding you back from going back to the galleries. So for those of you who have already been upstairs or have carefully scoured the details of our press release, you'll know that we are doing something a little bit different in the 5th floor galleries this spring. In addition to our featured Amy Sherald and Marina Zurkow exhibitions, we've also opened up the ends of our 18,000 square foot 5th floor galleries to feature 2 additional presentations that draw on the strengths of the Whitney's collection and also look to some exciting moments in our exhibition history. So these presentations, which feature the work of Louise Nevelson and Mary Heilmann, as Scott mentioned earlier, were also importantly conceived in relation to our fantastic east and west-facing windows. And you'll see that upstairs and in these renderings that I will show you. So I'll give you a quick overview of both of these presentations, beginning here with Nevelson. And you're likely familiar with Nevelson's bold assemblages, which were made of these kind of stacked, found, composed objects, which she would then paint a uniform color. Here, as you'll see, all of these works are from her Black series. By painting the work in one color, she was actually cloaking the identifying details of each element. This is something that I think is very exciting in the presentation upstairs because it allows you to look closely and to see what those elements actually were. Many of these items were elements that she scavenged from the streets of New York. She talked about New York City as a great big sculpture. And as you'll see, from the rendering again, you will see that we are presenting these sculptures in direct relationship with, kind of in a visual dialogue with the downtown landscape. So look for items like, pieces of rebar, scraps of wood, these types of items that she, while watching from the 1930s through the 50s, through the 60s, all of the cycles of destruction and construction in New York City would bring back to her studio and transform into these abstractions. I'll show you an additional installation, rendering of the installation upstairs. Also to note that this project really taps into the strengths of the Whitney's collection. The Whitney is one of the largest repositories of Nevelson's work. We have over 90 works, which includes prints, drawings, and sculptures on view here. So we're showing just a sampling. This is about a little over 15 sculptures, and it ranges in date from the late 1940s through the early 1980s, which is really towards the end of her career. I would also encourage you, because we're showing these works in the windows, in the light, to as Christiana was saying before with Marina's piece, this installation rewards return visits and looking at it at different times of day. Nevelson she called herself an architect of shadows. And it's been very exciting to sort of see that play of light and shadow in this work from the early morning through the end of the day, which is a perfect segue to our west-facing windows, where we are really excited to show this presentation of Mary Heilmann's work, which Scott mentioned earlier. Now, Scott mentioned that this is sort of a reprise of the 2015 installation, really a commission of Mary Heilmann for the inaugural show at the Whitney's downtown location. You see an image of that here on the left. This was really a beloved installation. I think so many of our visitors, all of us, loved these chairs, these sculptures that allowed people to take a moment to sit, to enjoy the views, to converse with folks that they'd come with, to meet new people. And in thinking about this important moment of what does it mean to think about how are these different ways we can celebrate these 10 years in this location, this felt like a really exciting opportunity. And because we were opening up the west side, and because this west side is also looking out over the Hudson, it had this sort of beach chair vibe. And there was a way of imagining creating this space of respite, space of reverie in these galleries. So you see that many of those same chairs, in addition to some new ones, are now presented here. And Mary was excited about thinking about the specificity of this location and the idea of what it means to be here looking out at the water. So what you'll see wrapping the space is actually a hand-painted realization of one of her 2020 paintings that was called Long Line. And she was interested in imagining what kind of a huge expansion of this work would feel like in the space to create this immersive environment. And it's very beautiful that Mary made the original 2020 painting in really the height of COVID lockdown on Long Island, outside of her studio, looking at the water and kind of imagining, this kind of creating a space of peace. And so here we bring that back, allow visitors to sit, to take in our, the majestic views of the Hudson, and also, pull a chair over, talk to your friends, meet other people, and enjoy your time here at the Whitney. I love that Mary talks about museums as places to hang out and kind of allows that invitation. So with that, I want to thank you again. Sorry, I'm not closing. I'm going to turn it back to Scott. But thank you again, and I will turn it to Scott.
Kim could have closed it, but I wanted to add two more things. I want to acknowledge especially our originating institution for the Amy Sherald show, SF MoMA, and Sarah Roberts, the curator who began that show, and our partner at the National Portrait Gallery. We are so fortunate to have such great peer institutions across this country and beyond that we can share our program with and work together with. And I really, I'm so happy to be working with SF MoMA at this time. Also, as long as you're all here, I do want to plug 3 upcoming exhibitions. This fall, we have 60 Surreal, an exhibition of more than 100 artists from the late 50s to the early 70s that will explore the kind of after effects and new life of surrealism in America across the entire country, from California to New York to Texas to Chicago. After that, we'll have the 2026 Whitney Biennial. Yes, it's coming back less than a year from now. And then we will have in the fall a retrospective of the work of Roy Lichtenstein, which is the first such retrospective in New York City in 30 years. So a major moment for us to celebrate one of the great icons of our collection. I want to thank the curators, Christiane, Kim, and Rue, and also Laura Phipps, who worked on this show. It's so wonderful every day to work with such talented, amazing people, and the entire Whitney staff, truly, who bring so much to this institution and made possible so many different things all at once. So thanks to all of you for being here, and I do hope you'll enjoy the exhibitions upstairs. Thank you.